Welcome to this screencast on creating and using QR codes. The first half of the video will focus on the pedagogical considerations of using technology, as we always should in our professional practice, and then the latter half will get to the technical side of using QR codes, that is creating and using those codes in your instruction. So for the duration of the video, just keep this in mind that as a learning goal, how do we leverage technology for deepening our own understanding and the application of it in teaching and learning. And if we're successful in meeting that goal, then we should be able to identify opportunities to leverage the technology, and also, I'll just highlight this here, how to respond accordingly. Okay, so do keep those in mind as we go through the video. In terms of materials that you should have available to you, it would be good that you're able to use this in the moment. So I would encourage you to pause the video and take care of having a past lesson handout or a new lesson idea, perhaps the skeleton of an idea or a handout you'd like to provide to students, and then also have a QR code generator on the laptop you're using for viewing and creating your documents. So I'm using Chrome, so I'll be using an app called the QR code generator. So it's as easy as going to the apps tab in Google Chrome, to your web store, and then installing your QR code generator. So again, I mentioned that the top half of this video will be about the pedagogy of using technology in our professional practice. The second half, the actual technical use of QR codes. So in terms of a sample lesson, I think I'm going to go ahead and take an old handout that I had used and make that an example of how I'm going to use QR codes. So before we go ahead and start doing that, think from a pedagogical point of view is how will the technology make this better for students? So you might be familiar with what is called the SAMR model, so the substitution, augmentation, modification, and redefinition model for consideration of tech when planning learning experiences for students. So I'd like to see myself using QR codes in such a way that I can modify and make room for redefinition. Okay, so in terms of modification, I'm going to project a few success criteria for myself in terms of how this might be better for students. So I'm not just substituting tech as for what I could have done traditionally. Okay, I want to take this more into the transformative stage. And then also redefinition. I want to make opportunities for students to respond, okay, to the feedback that I might have provided or that they're able to find upon their own using the technology. Okay, so I want to make room for that. So some considerations, as I mentioned, some success criteria. These are criteria that I would consider for myself, and also, just highlight this here too, these are criteria that I would want my students to also be thinking about. That way we have alignment between teacher and students in our practice. So I'm wondering, in terms of using the technology, will students say, I can self-regulate the pace of my learning better? I can make more meaningful notes based on my interaction with my peers, with my teacher, and with the resources that I'm provided from a technological standpoint. Okay, so the videos, my connectedness to feedback and other sources in real time. And also I'm wondering, would students then say that they can better check their understanding? Can they engage further in that self-assessment piece based on the feedback that they're getting? And although they might be interacting with technology in the classroom and beyond, there are times when we can intercede in an intentional way and draw students' attention to things that we're naming and noticing within our practice. Now, how will I know if it's having an impact? And again, I would want students to be a part of this as well. How will we know in a qualitative manner? Paying attention to conversations and observations. So are we co-constructing the criteria? Okay, so maybe there'll be an exit card at the end of it all. observations and interpretation of documentation. So are we doing that? And then repurposing them, that is revisiting them. Let me highlight this here, that's important. Are we revisiting those with students in terms of the next learning experience? Okay, so that's the pedagogical side, and by all means, if you do have questions for me, please comment in the area provided on the site, and or send me an email. Okay, contact information will be shared later on. So let's go ahead and consider a particular handout or a lesson problem that I've used in the past. So we'll take something drawn from a mathematical perspective, and we'll consider some data management. Okay, so students learn about measures of central tendency, their means, medians, and modes from an early age, and that extends right up into grade 12, and then is used for those moving on in statistics in their post-secondary careers. So let's just say, for instance, that the goal of a secondary math course is about summarizing or learning to summarize data using statistical measures, and then also learning about how to interpret those measures in terms of which ones might best represent a data set. Okay, so perhaps envision this particular prompt also as one that is trying to cultivate prior knowledge from students, as well as eliciting new understanding, which will build as a community. And that new understanding, of course, is going to help us move towards attainment of these goals. Okay, so envision these problems 1 and then 2 in that succession, in a gradual release manner, being posted around the perimeter of a classroom, or a near-point copy on a piece of chart paper, students in groups, perhaps randomized, working at whiteboards and uncovering all that it is that they need to do in order to be successful with these questions. So where do QR codes come in to this part of the story? Okay, so take, for instance, the first problem, or the problem from your subject area. Most might come in with prior knowledge of these particular terms. Okay, it might be okay to move forward with answering this. Some groups might also need a little bit of a refresher. Okay, so in order to personalize and differentiate the delivery of that instruction, we need to provide students with the tools to do so. Okay, so if we want to move away from something that might be text-based, then we might be looking more at a digital object or at a video per se. So here's an opportunity where I can drop into my handout, so my digital note, or the physical copy that I have posted around the classroom for a QR code. So let's do that right now. So what I'm going to do is I'll take you to, I've already done a bit of a search for this on YouTube. Okay, so if I've already gone ahead and have viewed or reviewed this Khan Academy video for intentionality, so for my purposes, as well as what I want students to get from that, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to copy the URL to that, and then I'm going to open up, so under apps, I'm going to go to my QR code generator, and in that QR code generator, there's different options, things that you can convert into a QR code, so students can read them on their personal device, so be it a tablet or a phone. So I'm going to go to URL, I'm going to paste in that long YouTube URL, and I'm going to shorten that URL down. Now I can copy and paste the shortened version into a handout. Okay, so students have less to type in, or they can click directly on that link in the digital handout. But rather, the point is getting at the QR code. So I'm going to have these posted around the classroom. So I'm just going to take a snip of that particular code. And there it is. I'm going to copy that code out. I'm going to go back to my handout. I'm going to paste that image in. Okay, so I'm just going to resize that image, and I'm going to move it around to exactly where I want it to be. Okay, so this is where my handout is. Let's just say it's here. Okay, and what students can do is they can then take their device, which most iPhones or smartphones nowadays either have it built in or have an app you can download that would scan that code. And upon scanning that code, it would take the student directly to the video, link directly to that, and they can start viewing it. Okay, and from that, students can start deriving meaning and then going back to the lesson problem, engaging with their peers in terms of coming up with a solution. Okay, so that's generally how you do it. The second problem, of course, goes a little bit further. Now that students have reviewed and have thought critically about the first problem, we'll get at the second problem, and in this case, it's aimed at meeting that second goal, and that is how do data influence which particular measurement best represents this set of data. Okay, and obviously it's a great question for discussion. So again, same thing, based on the topic. If students need a little bit of a backgrounder, of course I don't want to be giving things away, but I do want to maybe provide a little bit of information that would get them thinking about some other statistical tools. So if I need them to know more about outliers, then I might actually get them to do that. Okay, so where you position the learning or this resource is critical. Okay, so in a pedagogical manner, I might have them engage in that, take inventory and stock of the solutions thus far, highlight, summarize, create some criteria around that, and then as an independent piece, I might then go, let me create a new URL here, copy and paste that into my node as well. I might get them to go independently afterwards and learn about statistical outliers and how to calculate them, and then bring that knowledge back into the classroom the next day. And the next day, that would then become a focus for the learning. Okay, so a lot of it very self-directed, but we're repurposing the class time to make the most out of our face-to-face learning time. Okay, so we can reposition that in where we particularly like. So I'm just going to head back to the agenda. So that, in summary, is how to create the codes, how to incorporate them into your digital and or paper handouts, and also the pedagogical side, or the moves you can make in using them. So if you have any questions or are looking for additional resources or tools, please take a look at flippl.ca. You'll find in the next few weeks there will be a resource section posted for a variety of different professional learning opportunities. And if you have any comments or suggestions, please add to the comments for the video, which will be posted, and or you can also contact me electronically. I'll just put that in here as well. Okay, at flippingthefocus@gmail.com.